Good morning, and I hope you all had a great evening yesterday evening. We had great tours, and so it's been an exciting conference. This will be an exciting session as well. I'm sure we'll learn a lot from Susan today. This is Congresswoman Susan Brooks. Susan represents the 5th District of Indiana. You have a bio in your packet for Susan, but one of the things that I wanted to mention about her was she was the U.S. Attorney General for Southern District of Indiana also. And her most important job was that she was Vice President and General Counsel for Ivy Tech Community College. And she was our leader for many years, or for a couple years, and we learned a lot from Susan. She was an inspiration to all of us in corporate college and contributed directly to all of our success. So we appreciate having her, and thank you, Susan.
Thank you. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. I'm not sure this, let me see if I hold it, if that would make a little bit of a difference. Does that work a little bit better? Because I heard a lot of, there we go. Okay. See, Burl Turnpaw taught me something about, how to take care of a little bit of technology issues. It is a wonderful opportunity to be here. It's great to be back home. I actually just got back last night. For those of you who don't know, we spend about Monday through Thursday there, and then most members come home. But I have to admit, I have a very short flight home from Washington, D.C. to Indianapolis. I'm curious, just met some folks from Wyoming, and what amazes me, oh, hi, Teresa, and just met someone coming in from Idaho. What is the greatest distance anyone traveled? Did you figure that out while you were here? Anyone further west than Idaho and Wyoming? Pardon? Outstanding. Okay, so we want to welcome you. And how many of you first time to Indiana? Just out of curiosity. Okay, let me just tell you, and I just want to commend Ivy Tech for getting you out to, one of our, really the jewels of our state, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and getting the opportunity to listen to Don Davidson, the historian for the Speedway. We're just very proud of that. It, brings more people to Indiana every year and has for decades. And what's, I think, so cool about it is because of the Speedway, we now have one of the fastest growing motor sports industries. And, when I heard that you went to Delora, and, we're just very proud to make sure that we've got that incredible partnership because it's such an economic engine for our state. But more importantly, we hope you come back for the race. Anyone coming back for the race? Anyone? How many of you have ever been to the race? It is something you need to put on your bucket list. It is something you need to kind of experience once in your life because you cannot kind of believe all of the people that are there, and whether you care about racing or not, it's just a really incredible event, and hopefully you will return. So just want to welcome you all to Indiana. I just have to tell you that I am and have became very, very aware of the importance of our community college systems and our career and technical programs, both in the high schools and at the college, at the post-secondary level, because of my work at Ivy Tech Community College. I worked at the college from 2007 until I ran for office. I had never been an elected official before, was approached about running for office, and but I learned so very much during that time, during the recession, when I saw all of the adults who got laid off from 2007 until really 2011 coming back and needing the skills to get those jobs in the 21st century, and they came through our doors, and which caused our doors to expand in a great way. And it was the largest, I think, surge of students and adults back to higher education probably than at any other time. And I just want to, during that time, I saw the leadership of President Tom Snyder, who was new to the college and new in leading higher ed. But what I loved about his energy and enthusiasm, he had just come from corporate America, but from manufacturing, where he had spent a career. And he knew the skills and the values that you all would teach the students and that they needed in the corporate sector and in the manufacturing sector to make sure that our country stayed competitive. Because at the end of the day, that's what the United States does. We make things. We innovate and we make things, and we have to continue to innovate and make things. And, I'm just so proud to have worked for Tom and got to know closely Babette, and then all of the folks for the Ivy Tech folks who were here, Sue and Leanna Verl, and then everybody else who I worked with. They taught me so much. And it was, in fact, as a first-time candidate, for any of you contemplating public office at any time, what I learned at the community college actually really helped me on the stump, and it helped me connect with citizens about what our companies and communities needed. And it is the skills and the type of education that you all provide. And I think people really do realize that. And then I was very pleased to be able to be placed on the Education and Workforce Committee that deals with the laws that affect your colleges and your programs. And learned a lot. Chairman Klein has been an amazing chairman. Dr. Virginia Fox, who leads higher ed. Are any of you from North Carolina? She's come from higher ed world, and she is the chair of the Higher Education Committee. And I would encourage you to look at how she is driving higher ed reauthorization, Perkins. And then yesterday I sat on the plane coming back with another Hoosier, Todd Rakita, who is actually leading the K-12 subcommittee in Congress. And there are a lot of changes going on there. But we are very proud in Indiana that President Obama visited Ivy Tech a few months ago, called Ivy Tech one of the best community college systems in the country. And even though I'm not a member of his political party, there are some things we agree upon. And that was one that I completely agreed upon, and really was thrilled that he came and that he has been highlighting community college. I have to also want to thank any of the sponsors, or any of the sponsors here, by the way, because without sponsors, you can't put on conferences like this. And so just want to thank all of the sponsors for being involved in a program like this. I have to tell you, I know the theme of your conference is innovation through continuous technical innovation, and I was asked to speak about the middle class and the role that education plays in bringing Americans out of poverty. Now, I have been working in D.C. I'm starting my third year there, and there is a person in Washington by the name of Arthur Brooks who runs something called the American Enterprise Institute. Now, Arthur and I are not related, but I have listened to him many times, and he leads one of these think tank organizations. And he has said that his primary course of study is happiness. And I'm sure you're sitting here thinking, what is this Congresswoman? I come from not a very happy place out in Washington, D.C. Okay, it's not very happy out there. You all have a lot more happiness going on at your institutions than I do at mine. But I will tell you that Arthur Brooks says that there are 4 keys to happiness. And he says if people have these things, then they will be happy individuals. And at the end of the day, pursuit of happiness is in our Constitution, and that is actually, when you think about it, if you are happy, then life is good. And what does it take to be happy? He said 4 ingredients to a happy life: faith, family, community, and he uses the word vocation. Now, I'm going to add something to that mix, to his mix, because I think particularly over the last many years, several years, there's something else that I think needs to be added to that, and that is security. And when I talk about security, if you think about what is the opposite of security, it's stress and anxiety. Now, many of you deal with a lot of students and who have a significant amount of stress and anxiety in their lives. And the reason they have that stress and anxiety is because right now in our country, we are at a point where it's the first time where Americans, and a very, very large number of Americans, are concerned that the next generation won't realize that American dream. That many people are very concerned that the generation behind them will not have it as good as they have it, or the generations before us. And this is the first time in our country's history where that is happening. I'm a mom of a 21 and a 24-year-old, so I think about that a lot. Will our kids have it better than we've had it? And that's typically what most of us had it better than our parents, and our parents had it better than their parents. But now we've kind of hit this point. And so how do we help? How do we get to that security for the future? And I do think Congress has a role to play in that. And when it comes down to security, I break it down. I'm not going to go into all of them, but economic security, personal security, retirement security, and national security. Now, I'm not going to talk about retirement and national security, but I'm going to talk about economic and personal security because that's where you all come in. That's where what you are doing day in and day out is helping people with their economic security and their personal security, which at the end of the day makes for a happy population, happy society. Now, economic security is about the ability to get a job and to keep a job. Personal security, I think, is about the ability to enjoy and be able to enjoy and afford just everyday life. And you all see it day in and day out. On economic security, poverty, we know, impedes happiness. It just does. Economic security is essential. But Arthur Brooks has actually studied this and has said that, believe it or not, extreme wealth doesn't guarantee happiness. Now, it would be fun to try it, wouldn't it? Okay. Have a little extreme wealth and have more than money than you knew what to do with. But you don't need to be Bill Gates or Warren Buffett to be happy. What you need is a job that gives you the dignity of work and allows you to provide for your family. And that's really what it takes. That's what a good job is. And a strong middle class with rising incomes and aspirations is what gets us to that happiness. And so how does Congress facilitate that or get in the way of that? We can do things, and I'm not going to talk, I can answer questions later about tax reform and regulatory reform. And all those things that allow the businesses you deal with to create those good paying jobs and keep them in this country. But one of the top things we all know, and the people you work with always say, is we don't have enough qualified people. And every company I visit, almost, says we still don't have enough qualified people. The Labor Department just reported last week that there are 5.1 million job openings in the country as of February. That is the highest number of jobs available in the U.S. in the last 14 years. So there are jobs out there. And you all know there are jobs out there because you talk with and visit with people, as do I, as do all members of Congress. When we go home, we often visit with whether it's companies or hospitals or school systems. That's what we do. Indiana certainly is no different. We face a workforce preparedness shortage as well. But we know that's what you all do day in and day out. Indiana Business Review said that 1.1 million job vacancies this decade, 3/5 of those required some post-secondary education. And so my message day in and day out when I'm at high schools is that kids, this high school diploma that you're about to get, it's great and congratulations, but it is not enough. It absolutely is not enough, and you have to keep going. And I know that, and many of our, members of Congress are giving that same message. And we've got to give it to parents, and we've got to give it, to all young people. I think at even a younger age, not just seniors, certainly. So we know we have to start young, and we have to start at that elementary and secondary education level. We have to start at that young age. We are debating what's called the Elementary Secondary Education Act right now in Congress, which would be a repeal of No Child Left Behind. And it was brought to the floor for debate in February of this year, but because of Homeland Security funding issues, it's been tabled for a while. It's starting to move in the Senate, but I think both chambers in Congress realize that we just haven't gotten it right. We're throwing so much more money at our K-12 system, and yet we aren't getting the results that we need. We still have far too many dropouts. we still don't have enough kids pursuing post-secondary education in some way. But I have to tell you, one of the biggest premises coming out of both chambers is that we think there's been far too much federal regulation in our K-12 system. And we need to let our state and our local school boards and our state and local governments have a lot more control over the schools rather than the mega federal regs coming to our schools. And we hear that from superintendents, school boards, principals all of the time. We've got to give educators on the ground more control, got to improve the assessment systems and give parents what they need to help them make decisions about their kids' futures. So I have to say, one of the things that we did accomplish, which I think going to the other end of the spectrum in last Congress, and the only time I've been to a bill signing at the White House, and it was very cool to be invited to go over there for a bill signing, and that was what WIA became, what we call it WIOA. Okay, I mean these acronyms, but the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. And that was a huge bipartisan success. And what I loved about that, and it was really driven by Dr. Virginia Fox, who had been in the college system, so she drove it working with Senator Patty Murray from the state of Washington. Their two teams worked tirelessly to try to work through the differences between the Republican versions and the Democrat versions, and it is the way things were supposed to be done. So very proud of that. I co-sponsored it and was involved in helping get it done. But what it does, and it's what you all focus on day in and day out as well, is just making sure that our workforce training systems, and let me tell you, until I went to Ivy Tech, I'd been a U.S. attorney, I'd been a lawyer involved in criminal justice system. I had no idea what the workforce training system was really about. And it is one of the most complex bureaucracies of anything I've ever seen. It made the Justice Department look hugely efficient, and which it's not. But how many of you serve on workforce boards or go and present to workforce boards? And let me just tell you, for those of you who do, I mean, just bless you. It is so hard because there are so many layers. And, you know, I learned that of the federal training dollars that are given to, you know, from the federal to the states down to the local, when it gets to the finally unemployed worker or underemployed worker, maybe 16 cents of every dollar actually do they ever get to bring to one of your programs. It's been awful. But now we have reformed the system. It's been signed into law, and it is, I hope, is going to be a success. Although I did just hear from my own state that 3,000 pages of regulations were just issued last week or last month. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of, I haven't had the opportunity yet to review them or to see them, but that's where I hope that they are all red line striking what, you know, the requirements are. It's supposed to be made simpler. And really what it is doing. So can I just see a show of hands? How many of you are all in the higher ed system? And are any of you in the K-12 system? Okay, so all higher ed. And obviously, I know that many of you, and how many of you are focused on workforce training as opposed to associate degree, okay, completion? So some of you. So this is a combination of folks. I mean, what this will do, and I'm just going to rattle through a couple of things but it should be relevant to everyone, because at the end of the day, when people come out of any of your programs, if they get laid off someday, or if they find themselves underemployed someday, they're going to find themselves walking through the door of this very complex system. And they are going to hopefully get the help that they need. And what we're trying to do, there is going to be a focus on out-of-school youth. And there is going to be a focus on vulnerable, low-income individuals. We are part of the highlights. It eliminates the sequence of services that were required. It gives a lot more flexibility to the system. I authored a bill or an amendment rather, that adds pay-for-performance contracts. So if you've got incredible programs that show results, you can put more money into those programs. And the thing that I hope everyone is talking about is it encourages encourages the implementation of career pathways. And nothing makes me more happy when I visit our high schools and are seeing them finally beginning to talk about career pathways and letting our kids start realizing if you do this, if you start now in high school, you can keep going on in college. And this is what this career pathway gets you if you start at this company, and then how you can work up. And we've got to get young people thinking like that, and older people. And it also just added, I think, a lot more flexibility to our states. I'm not going to go into discussion about those systems, the state workforce boards, but all I can say is that if any of you are on those, encourage your states. They now have a lot more freedom to not have so many requirements of the number of different types of categories of, people that serve on those boards. They should be more flexible. I have to tell you that we also need to ensure that we start talking about career and technical education, I think, at a much younger level. It shouldn't just be for the adults or the young adults who are finding their way into your programs. We have to do a far better job in our school systems, starting, I think, in middle school and then going through high school. And I think, unfortunately, the country kind of lost its way getting away from the middle skill jobs, the middle skill incomes, and focusing always on the 4-year degree programs. And as many of you know, it's often some of those associate degree or the certification certificates that people get. And when they come out, it's at Ivy Tech that I learned that starting welders can make $70,000 to $80,000. Okay, I didn't know that because I'd been a lawyer. I had gone to, 4-year college right out of high school, and then I went on to law school. I had no idea what, heating and air conditioning technicians were making and what plumbers were making and what all of the skilled trades and what manufacturers made. And I have to tell you, we have gotten away from that, as you know, in the country, in our high schools. And that, I think, is what's caused this huge shortage. And now, in some ways, with the technology and all the innovation that's happening, people are realizing, and as you might see in the tech sector, a lot of the biggest tech creators are actually not pushing the 4-year colleges. Some of the biggest startups are saying, they just started it out of high school or, during college that they might have dropped out. Now, obviously, we don't want to encourage dropouts. We know completion's so important, but I think that we just have to get a shift. And in some ways, partnering with the tech sector will help you make those shifts in your communities. I have to tell you that I recently visited a high school in my district that received one of those huge Department of Labor grants, Pike High School, northwest side of Indianapolis, a school system that has probably a high and growing number of free and reduced lunch students, a very, very large number of minority students attending this high school. And I saw they had everything. So they received the $7 million grant, Department of Labor grant. They are partnering with Ivy Tech. They are partnering with a lot of businesses. They are now have a person absolutely designated to form internships for their high school students and apprenticeships. Tech support, web design, manufacturing, logistics, engineering classes, robotics, CNA, they have it all. They're on the campus at the high school. And what I love about their model and what I think is right about that model is that these students don't have to go off campus and spend 3 to 4 hours in a program. They are going over to that program for an hour, then they're going back into the rest of their normal curriculum and the day with everything else. And I think that is the model. That's the model we have to have, because right now, too many students don't want to leave campus, don't want to leave the high school campuses, go to the career and tech centers for the 3 to 4 hour blocks they have to go to. And it's not because they don't want the programming, but they often, don't want to leave their friends. Believe it or not, they don't want to leave their friends. They also don't want to be viewed as not going to college. Okay? They don't want to be pigeonholed into and I think we've got to get away from using the word vocational, even though I used it in my opening. That's because Arthur did. But no, most young people don't want to go to vocational school, okay? They want to go to career and technical schools, and I love that that's what this group is calling. But any person I'm talking to, I'm trying to say, get that old term out of our heads, because I think it is impeding young people's excitement about what you all do. And so to the extent, and you can disagree with me when we get to Q&A, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this, but we've got to make it, we've just got to make it more 21st century, I guess. And we've got to make it more progressive and futuristic looking, I think, for these young people to get excited about it. What they are excited about, these kids loved that they were getting dual credit. They loved that they were getting college credits, and that excited them when I visited these programs. I also visited a great program last week in Anderson doing the same thing with dual credits with Ivy Tech, and that is giving them something to think about, and of course their parents love it. So these are all incredibly important. One of the things, we're getting ready to do the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act, and I just want to tell you some of the principles that are going to be governing that when we go through higher ed reauthorization. And these are the principles that Dr. Fox has set out: empowering students to make more informed decisions. So educating them a lot more, being more transparent about what the higher ed institutions offer. Simplifying and improving student aid. Okay, student aid is still a maze. Talk about another bureaucracy that is so difficult to navigate. We need to simplify student aid. We need to promote and reward innovation, access, and completion. Completion is still going to be part of it. And then we also need to ensure strong program accountability while limiting the federal government's role. So I hope that we are going to get to higher ed reauthorization. It's a priority of Dr. Fox, and if you've never met Dr. Fox, she is a steamroller. She is absolutely a committed, passionate person about making this better. Then we're also, I think, going to take up the Perkins reauthorization, because Perkins is due to expire at the end of fiscal year 15, and, there is a realization, certainly in Congress, how important Perkins is, but we've got to make sure that we better integrate Perkins into our schools and into our workplaces. And so we have to make sure that not only the education community is talking about it, but I would encourage you to talk to your business community about how important it is for them, because they come and see us every day as well. So education lobbyists come see us, business lobbyists come and see us, industries of all sort come and see us. And just so you know, when people give us a hard time about lobbyists, I tell people, look, we have to have lobbyists. We can't, with our small legislative staffs, understand all that's in these bills. There's lobbyists for electricity. There's lobbyists for plastics and wood and education, and we have to have them come and visit with us and tell us what's in these bills. Some of the Perkins reauthorizations, I think it's all what most of you do already. It is about aligning, CTE with in-demand jobs. I really think when you look at what Perkins is about, you all do it. And you all do it well, and we just have to continue to make sure that there is Perkins funding coming your way. So I think we've got it, but one of the things that I think is going to be a focus is a better transition between secondary and post-secondary education. And so if you are not closely aligned with your high schools, if you do not have those relationships, you could be left out. Okay, and so to the extent, how many of you are closely aligned with your high schools? Okay, if you are not, I would encourage you, that's going to be one of the guiding principles. Go back and make sure that transition happens. I just have to tell you that we know these are all things that are coming up. I am actually no longer on education and workforce. I moved to a committee called Energy and Commerce. Energy and Commerce has the broadest jurisdiction in Congress, and it deals with every sector. Energy, I'm on the Commerce, Manufacturing, Trade subcommittee. I'm on the Health subcommittee. I mean, you all, it's any sector of our economy is affected by energy and commerce. And just so you know, we don't focus just on issues involving regulations by federal government. My mantra every time I speak is about what kind of workforce do all of these sectors have. And so we're trying to make sure that even in that committee, it's all about a skilled workforce. Because at the end of the day, we can get the taxes right, we can get the regulations right, and don't get me wrong, we don't have them right now. But if we don't have the skilled workforce to really, power these all these sectors, it doesn't matter. So I just want to tell you that the millennials, I am concerned about our millennial generation. The millennial generation, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, 30% of the millennials are living at home right now. This is not a good thing. I'm the mom of a 21 and 24-year-old, and my daughter, for a period of time, lived with me in my little studio apartment in Washington, D.C., as she was looking for a job after college. She didn't really find what she was looking for there, when now does have a job, thank God, and with health insurance, another thank God. That's always a huge relief for any adult with a young adult. But I have to tell you, there are far too many young people at home. And while that's okay for a short period of time, if you think about what that means, if we don't get these young people into the career paths, and many of them come out of college with degrees and still aren't getting into the workforce that they thought that they would get into. They're settling for something totally different just to get a job. And what that has a ripple effect throughout our economy. When young people are living at home, guess what? They're not renting apartments. They're not thinking about buying homes. They're not out buying things. And it just has a huge ripple effect. And so we have to make sure that, but yet some of them come out of college with degrees that actually don't mean much. And they come out of college with degrees that actually can't get them a decent job. And so I'm really pleased that we started connecting careers with classrooms in the district. And so my office is hosting meetings with educators, middle and high school guidance counselors, teachers, principals, and superintendents, and is educating them about different sectors of the economy. So we were at Dow Agro, educating them about life sciences. We went to Beck Seeds and educated them about agribusiness. And we're going to a tech, we've got a tech focus in May. And so please understand, you all understand far better than our middle and high school teachers and guidance counselors what the jobs are out there. But if you talk to your friends who are in the high school systems and in the middle schools, they truly have no idea what you all know. They haven't seen it. They haven't been in the different manufacturing facilities. They haven't been in hospitals to talk about what the jobs are. They haven't been in the tech companies. So think about those partnerships, because those are the people that are advising our kids of what to major in college or what careers. And then they shift when they come to you. You all then plant new ideas, but we've got to, again, start younger. So please, think about how you can help with our middle and high school guidance counselors, teachers, and so forth. So this is where I'm very proud to be a voice for you all. I want to open it up to any questions you might have. Sorry, I went a little bit long. I went really long. But in case you can't tell, I'm passionate about what you do. Myself, Dr. Fox, and many others. I do encourage you to reach out, invite your members of Congress to your campuses. Get them on campus, let them meet with your students, let them meet with your faculties, get them on campus so they have a better understanding. Invite your middle and high school guidance counselors and teachers to your schools. And when you're going out to companies, invite them along, and they will love it. And so I just want to thank you all for letting me be a part of your session, and want to open it up for a few minutes of Q&A. Thank you. Anybody? Questioned out?
So maybe say a word about how individuals can reach out. Travel budgets here, they spend all their money getting here. Travel budgets are limited. In the district, what are the best ways to reach out to their partners?
Yeah, absolutely. To reach out to your members of Congress, you don't have to go to Washington. And in fact, I submit it is better not to go to Washington to do it, for you, because we have like 15-minute meetings with you or 30-minute, and they're unpredictable and they can get canceled because of votes. All of your members of Congress have district offices, and either go visit them in the district office, or better yet, see if you can work with their schedulers to get them to come see you and to come on campus. And to see what your programs are. One of the things to do, and with higher ed reauthorization coming up and with Perkins coming up, they are looking for opportunities to come and to see what you all are doing. And so it will be relevant to actually what they're working on in DC. Let them hold a press conference when they're there, or press availability. Let them come in and notify the media that they're coming. And then, they can walk through, and it truly isn't just a photo op, okay? Now, photo ops, elected officials like photo ops, okay? Let's be honest. And they like for the media to know that they're out, but it also gives you a great opportunity to showcase to the media what you're doing. And so that really is the best way, or get their staff. If they are not, get the staff, so it doesn't just have to be the member. They all have a state district director or a district director that leads. Invite them in to see something, and then they might get excited enough to say, hey, when they go back to their boss and say, we really think you need to be there. Invite them to your groundbreakings and to any openings, or, or conferences to speak like Ivy Tech has done. Just try and get them engaged. And I think that, and have your board of trustees or your board of governors, have them, invite them to their meetings. And, it doesn't just need to be you. It should be the leaders as well as, faculty and students. Invite them to be commencement speakers. I'm proud to, and I'm sure you all do, but I'm going to be the Ivy Tech commencement speaker on May 9th, and I'm thrilled to be offered that opportunity. So, those are just ways to engage your members of Congress. Yes, sir. Prescriptive. Fall semester, second, two. Mm-hmm. I do think that is something that in the higher ed reauthorization with the student aid, the focus on improving student aid, I will definitely take that back to Dr. Fox, and I'm certain that she is aware of that. But that needs to come with, now the problem can be as well is that we, will pass a bill, and then DOE through rules and regulations can change or interpret what we've done maybe very differently. Happens to us all the time with federal agencies. So, but I'll definitely take that back as a huge impediment. Yep. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
A lot of us compete for these grants and do it well, NSF, lots and lots of federal money. The focus of these things are all of the big urban schools and coasts. And it's very hard for us, and there are a lot of people here in the rural West
Right. I vacation in Wyoming. I know what you're talking about.
It's hard to qualify these things beyond the income criteria of all these
Thank you. And I'll also, I will certainly bring that up with Dr. Fox as well. And one of the, there should be a specific focus, and maybe it needs to be more set out in the bills that we pass, because again, we pass the bills and pass it into law, but then DOE, then it's up to the administration to issue the rules and regs. We don't typically get into exactly how the grants should be allocated. And so, but I do think there is a Western caucus. And because I do vacation in Wyoming, I'm contemplating joining it. But then I thought, would Hoosiers think it was really weird I was in the Western caucus? But there is a Western caucus that is really pretty big and pretty important. And so I will make sure that they know. Cynthia Lumbus does a great job advocating on behalf and is one of the leaders in the Western caucus. She's the representative of Wyoming. And here's what's kind of wild. The Western states have one representative and 2 senators. Okay, because it's population based. And so they have 1 representative and 2 senators. But I'll make sure that they talk about that. Others? Anybody else? We want to make sure, need to make sure that my old boss gets to the airport on time to get to their flight. But thank you all so very much what you do. Feel free to stop by my office in Washington if you're ever out there. And if you ever go out, you really should. I encourage you to get out there sometime for family vacations. You can call your offices also, your members' offices, to arrange tours, whether it's of the Capitol, the White House. It's an incredible place for vacations. And now it's pretty swampy and hot in August. I would avoid August. But otherwise, thank you all very much for what you do.